July 8th, 2024 Village Council meeting order. Pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dana, will you take the roll, please?
Trustee Salter,
Here.
President Lamont,
Here.
Trustee Hanson. Here. Trustee Goldberg,
Here.
Trustee Erlich,
Here.
Trustee Hanky, and Trustee Solly are here.
Okay, we have a motion to adopt the agenda.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
I'll second.
Any comments?
Yes, so I think we need to remove outdoor lighting one more time. I think I finally figured out, I asked David Solly to send me today the last draft that him and Peter had worked on, and I think I figured out the problem is, what keeps going in the packet is a memo that, and a ordinance that Chris had done in November of '23. That was a follow-up of a memo from August of '24, and it's the August '24 memo that David Solly took and made revisions on, but nobody's changed this front here. It's still showing that we're reviewing something as of August '24. So, Peter, I'm gonna get with you this week and have you send the version that you had last marked up, which included all of Solly's comments, send that to Chris Duzin, and ask him to send it back to us.
With the changes he made from November.
No, with just basically with a new date on it and having him done a review of, for the types of review that he does for a
Okay.
correctness standpoint, not a substantive standpoint.
So just a question about that, David. I'm still sensing that we have some gaps in the substance and content of the lighting ordinance. So how do you want him to handle it if David's suggesting a direction other than what was in the source document? Do you want him to do track changes
Well, no,
or?
I thought
put
we
in a
had
color?
agreed that we were gonna vote on the version of the ordinance that David had modified. And that has yet to find its way into our packet for the last 3 months. We keep getting a prior version,
Okay,
and I think the only people that have that version are David and Peter.
yeah.
And it's
okay.
never found its way to Dana. So Dana is looking for something that she doesn't have.
And David's not gonna be here tonight to point out the
Correct.
modifications.
So I'm gonna ask them to send to Chris what they believe is the last version, for Chris to look it over to make sure that it's, meets the criteria or, everything and formatted properly, and have that version brought to us for next meeting.
So we will take it 10A, consider the lighting ordinance. We'll take it off tonight's agenda.
Correct.
And next month, we will have a revised ordinance to consider. So, okay. Any other changes to the agenda? Okay, all in favor of the amended agenda, say aye.
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 Okay, here we go. Minutes of last meeting, June 10th. They're in your packet here. Do you have a motion to approve?
Motion to adopt.
Second?
A second.
Any changes, comments?
Nope, I didn't have any.
Everybody's happy?
Okay, good.
I think Ron Reams's name is misspelled.
Yeah.
Page 2, Dana. Double check that. I think it's R-E-A-M-E, but verify that.
I think the address looks wrong also.
Yeah.
Yep.
I know there was a lot of noise last week. Maybe hard to hear.
Okay, so change Ron's last name, or spelling his last name. Everybody okay? All in favor of approving the
Aye.
minutes? Aye.
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 Okay, public requests and comments. If you're out there and you have a comment about something that's not on the agenda, come on up to the podium and identify yourself, and nobody wants to take us up on that, eh? Okay. Reports of village officers and agents. Kurt, looks like you're first up here.
Well, good evening. I hope everyone had a good 4th of July. Reporting about this last weekend, which was, we're always concerned about fireworks and noise complaints. It was relatively quiet in the village. We only had a couple of complaints, so that's a good thing. I wanted to update you on our new officers. Remember, we hired Officer Farrow and Officer Nora Downs. Officer Farrow got sworn in by Clerk Dana over here on June 17th, and both officers are doing a fantastic job. We could not be happier with the fact that we stole them from another department, kind of. And they've been fantastic. So they're really fitting in with the team. I think they're really fitting in with what all of you expect from our police officers. We are still down one full-time position. So as you know, there's a lot of competition out there, but we're gonna continue to look. We're gonna find the person that's right for the village. We're not gonna settle. I've said that before publicly, and we're just not gonna do that. I'd rather work short than get the wrong person. And then finally, I wanted to update you on the South American home invasion crews that we're all very concerned about. They've been relatively quiet the last couple of weeks. The last home invasion that I know about happened in Bloomfield Township behind Kirk in the Woods there. But like I said, the last 2 weeks been very quiet, so we hope that continues. And with that, I know we have a packed agenda. I don't have much more. If you have any questions on the monthly report, I'd be.
We haven't had any of those invasions in the village
We've had
from that group.
We've had one, which we had about a month and a half ago. And that was actually somewhat different from them. It was kind of a crime of opportunity, I believe. It was in one of the condo complexes. It wasn't in Franklin, it was in Bingham Farms. And it was basically at the end of a cul-de-sac, and they parked at a dead-end road, and they were able to walk over the berm and get into the house very quickly and get out. So,
Okay. Thanks, Chief.
you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I don't see anybody from the fire department. We have a report from them. So, Treasurer Lance is not here. We have a treasurer's report.
He did provide a report.
Yes, it's here.
Yeah, the written
Relatively low spending this
Pretty
month,
low
only
spending, yeah.
66 grand. So, okay. Enough for that stuff. Current bills. We have a bills list of $66,189. Have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
I'll
Second.
second it.
Any questions, comments?
Nope.
None? All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Okay. Special reports, president reports. I just want to talk a little bit about the bicentennial stuff. June 23rd, the Strawberry Festival happened. About 100 people gathered in the green across from the church and had a pretty good time. We also had Ming, the magnificent musician, what the kids really liked in the gazebo. So next up, July 13th, this Saturday, is the bicentennial birthday party. It's at 4 o'clock. The library is coordinating this one. They've asked that people pre-register. I understand about 150 people have registered already. So if you haven't, today was the day for registration, but I'm sure they won't throw you out if you register tomorrow. So it should be a good time. A couple other things on the 20th, on Saturday the 20th, the Historic Society is going to conduct a cemetery tour of kind of interesting, a lot of interesting people lived here, and I'm a little biased on that one. My wife conducts the tour, but that's at 2 o'clock then, and Saturday then, and Sunday the 21st, also at 2 o'clock, there will be a historic district walking tour. Starts at 14 in Franklin, again at 2 o'clock, down Franklin Road, Germanville Carroll. Again, a good overview of what we have been and how we got to where we are. So that's it for my report. Council members?
I'll make an FCA update. The FCA had a great Uncorked event with the help of Tangerine Wine in Raja. It was a beautiful event. We had over 100 people, and we had live music. It was the best one we've had yet. We have an upcoming music at the gazebo on Wednesday the 10th, and can't remember who it's sponsored by, so I apologize to that person or to that company. And I also wanted to update on our Welcome to Franklin book that will be going out to the residents and be available. It's going to update, let people know about the history of Franklin and all the community groups that are available with advertisements from our local businesses. And it's almost done. I'm just waiting for a handful of ads. And once we get those handful of ads, we'll be ready to go and give them out. Hopefully, by the Black Party that is when we're hoping to have them available. So, thank you.
And the sponsor for Music on the Green is Superior Bank. So
Thank you.
thank you, Superior Bank.
Any other comments from council? Administrator, Roger?
Nothing this evening.
Boy, we're gonna whip through
Wow,
this.
man, look at us.
Keep it going.
Let's wrap this
I have
up
a
by
question for
6:30.
Roger.
Sure.
I have a question for you, Roger. We talked about short-term investments
Yes.
last month. Would you give us an update on where you and the treasurer are at on that?
We had, Lance and I had been discussing with a couple of different sources, the opportunity to take available cash from the village and invest it as we had several years ago. After the COVID debacle, that investment program had sort of dissipated because interest rates were low and it wasn't something that the banks were messing with at the time. They've since started working it again, and we have, the council's encouraged us to go ahead and get back into that. We talked with Plant Moran, who has been doing our general budgeting stuff and finance stuff. Their suggestion was that we wait until we finish with the June reports so that we would have the full year to take a look at how the various accounts have flowed during the course of the year, so that we could optimize the amount of money that we could take from one account or another and put into this investment pool. So that's what we're doing. We should have that information to make that analysis probably the early part of July, this month. Probably later than mid-July. I shouldn't have
Okay.
said early part, because that's the year-end stuff. But we expect to be back into this in August.
Oh, that's good. Oh, good. I'm really happy about that because it helps, instead of leaving money sitting in checking, we use the money. We earn on the money, and we did do that several years ago, and with interest rates the way we are, there's no reason not to. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. And may I, Bill, I should have mentioned one other thing. Twice a month, the Michigan Municipal League hosts a noontime information sharing with local municipalities. And one of the things that came up today that I wanted to share with you is that the legislature has done some interesting work on revenue sharing. And there's several different types of that, but three of them that they discussed today are increasing almost 25% over what they've shared in the past, starting in October. And there's actually 6 or 7 different types of revenue sharing. Those are the biggest ones that they're doing, but they expect the others to be up somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 15%. We won't know the exact numbers for us for a while, but I wanted you to be aware of that because that's really quite good news for us as we talk about the limited additional resources we get from the state.
That's good. I'd heard that the flow from the state to the cities, local municipalities was gonna get much better this year, and I'm glad to hear that. I didn't know what the percentage was.
Yep.
Good.
So we had, what, about a little over 300,000 last year, so this
Something
could
like
be
that.
another 50,000 or something,
That's my guess.
okay.
Good.
I have
Excellent.
2 questions from constituents that came to me, and we discussed one of them, you and I personally, but today I got a call from another regarding the Blight home on Inkster Road between 13 and Northwestern. It appears that this individual is lighting fires on a very regular basis, and the people around the area are very concerned because obviously there's a real blight issue there, as well a lot of trees and shrubbery. So I just want to bring this up again and make sure our code official, I know that we're on it, but I'm even more concerned when I hear she's having fires on a regular basis.
One of the things that we have done in that particular case is that Don Bogren, our code officer, has done a nice job in many ways, but one of those that he's done is apply for and receive from the county's social services operations money for cleaning up of senior yards to assist in the expense of that. And he has also been to court on that particular property and received court's approval for a forced cleanup on the site.
Oh, okay. When is that gonna be?
Well, Jerry's folks have submitted a proposal of $2,500, which we think is extraordinary, to get in and clean up that site. Unfortunately, they haven't been able to get at it because they've been spending a whole lot of time south of us cleaning up one of our communities that was just devastated by the storms a couple of weeks ago. And they have had anywhere from 11 to 14 people working down there every day. So keeping up with some of their other obligations like mowing and that sort of stuff has taken a while. But we expect that that will be done within the next month.
Can we just make sure we try to accelerate it?
We'll
Us-
do all- of
Given,
course.
and I don't know if the individual that called me today is in this audience or watching, but I said I would bring it up with greater concern, given the fire issue.
Yep.
We've seen that, what can happen there.
Yeah.
Second question, there's a resident that has a storage unit on their driveway that's been sitting there for 2 weeks. Do we have a code restriction on the length of time that one of those moving pods can sit in full view on a driveway?
You know, it's not something very specific in our code, because folks get them to temporarily store items when they're working on a property, take them out, put them in, and we try not to be difficult about that.
Yeah.
We'll talk to them and
Okay.
see what's going on, and if it's a temporary thing,
I'll point out the specifics after the meeting.
I'll do that. But
Okay.
we had one down on Meadow that had been there a couple of years, and one of the difficulties was
Yeah.
that we hadn't been able to figure out which pod dealer had it.
Well, this is specifically branded, so it's very obvious who the company is. I don't know what the resident's intent is, whether they're moving or whether they're renovating, or I don't know anything. All I know is it's been sitting there for a couple weeks.
Once
And
again,
people
Don
are
did a
asking.
nice job there.
Yeah. Okay.
Got rid of the pod, we had gotten rid of a dumpster that was out in that same yard a couple of years ago. And he has now made contact with the owner, and has had some interesting conversations that we think will be fruitful over time.
Good, okay, thank you.
Is that it for Frederick?
I have nothing.
Right.
Can I just say that I
Sure.
think the banners are amazing?
Yeah,
Yeah, they are.
There's a banner over Franklin Road downtown. That's our best advertising for anything that happens in the village.
yeah.
But those beautiful vertical things that, was that you? Oh,
And the
it's
cutouts,
really
the
wonderful.
cutouts,
Yeah,
they're great.
Right.
it's
that's-
really
very-
pretty,
A
so
lot
thank
of,
you.
a lot of the folks in the Star Society were
It
involved in
was
this.
just lovely. I noticed them today for the
And because
first
our
time.
sidewalks are so beautiful, it enhances everything.
Yeah.
Oh, good,
What are you
Michael.
gonna do without those light poles?
Cool, very good. Okay, Stuart, can you stop laughing and give the planning commission report, please?
It's very well timed.
I'm just a happy guy,
Yeah,
so I thought it was good.
it's contagious, everybody.
Yeah, everyone's smiling here too, so I think it's good. Report from the Planning Commission from last month. So I think we might have broken record on the longest public hearing. We're still keeping the public hearing for the extant open. The information that we're waiting on is actually the approval letter from Oakland County Road Commission with regards to the placement of the pole. But, we're still working through that approval process. We need to have the actual letter saying that they approved of the location. It violates some of their other requirements, but in the new location, but if they're okay with it, then in one location but not the other, we want to discuss that still. The other thing that we did as a planning commission, which isn't on your agenda tonight, but is the golf court ordinance. We have finalized an ordinance to recommend to council. And when it's on the agenda, we'll talk more to that. But we, you know, we think we did as good a job as we can for the type of ordinance. Regardless of planning's feelings about having golf carts in the village, we feel like it's a good compromise with regards to safety of the neighbors and neighborhood, and those that wish to use golf carts to come downtown.
Cool. I believe the plan is to have
Thank
that
you.
on the agenda next month, so.
Okay.
So have you started any review of the reader signboard for out in front of Broughton House?
Do we have direction to, we have not had I've heard from the side that there's direction, but I've not been given council direction from
Well, I was
council
under the
directly.
impression you were gonna forward to them
We
the,
did.
the sign that was
There
suggested.
also has not been a direction specifically from council asking planning to look at that issue.
Well,
Thought we just wanted their
Well, you
thoughts
know.
on it.
I don't know how many more times we can say how much we would like to see a sign before Roundup. So obviously
So
that's
the,
not gonna
the
happen.
first was, yeah, so generally want your, I mean, we like to get your guys' thoughts on the subject.
Right, it
Whether-
would matter.
Whether it makes sense in the first place, the proposed look of the sign and size of the sign that's suggested, and then would probably also require you to take a quick look at the sign ordinance and identify what modifications would be needed in order to allow those types of signs only on municipal property, not on commercial properties.
Okay,
So that's
Yeah,
what
so
sort of what we
anything-
were under the impression the direction was for you guys to be considering.
so I had heard from Roger that that is something that council's looking for, but we were not given in this meeting any direction or emails from council with regards to doing that just yet. If it's the direction of council, rather than one or two councilors making that recommendation, then that's fine. I would prefer to have, because
Can
We
as-
voted on it.
Can
We
we
took
voted
action
on
on
this
this.
months ago,
Yeah.
when,
where in the minutes is that? I couldn't find it.
I mean, I'll have to go back to figure out.
I was
This
there,
goes back
I've
to-
been here,
this goes
right?
back to last year, so.
Well, right, and so, but then we were told to put it on hold,
I'm not teeing off on you.
right?
I'm not
No, if
happy
the
about
answer
the
is
lack
you
of
haven't, if the answer
communication.
is you don't have direction, then.
We've talked
give you
about
direction.
electronic
Yeah, give-
signs.
So,
If
yeah,
this
I
is
was
the-
just,
if this is
I wasn't
direction,
asking for a
perfect.
defense, I was
This
just
is
asking
direction.
for an
Yeah,
answer.
that's great, we'll move forward with that, that's fine.
Okay.
I see a lot more
We'll
nods.
get something, we'll get
Sounds
something
good.
to you to give you some direction.
All right, thank you.
Well, he's got verbal.
He's got direction, and
He's got
if we want to have a separate discussion, let's do it, let's escalate it. We've been talking about this for almost a year.
It has been mentioned for over a year,
I
but,
know, okay,
but no concrete
okay.
direction, so that's,
Okay,
any questions?
questions?
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
sir.
Stuart.
Okay. Main Street Franklin,
Council, how's everybody this evening?
pretty good, Jeremy, how are you?
So if anybody doesn't remember, I'm Jeremy Fagan. I'm the manager at Comerica Bank and the president of Main Street Franklin. I'm sure you all remember Susan Goldstrom. We've all forgotten about her. So we just wanted to give a couple of updates. I know that our permits for both the block party and the Franklinstein Frenzy are on the agenda for tonight. So we appreciate the village's past support for all those events and continued support so that we can host those. The block party is August 21st. We have just recently ordered our banners, so we should see those going up very soon to advertise it in the month leading up to the event. So we're very excited about it. We're very excited, Kathy, for the welcome book to be there as well, so appreciate you and everything you're doing on that. I think those were the big things for Main Street on there as well right now. We were hoping, I know that we have the consideration for liquor licenses for redevelopment that's down here on the bottom of the agenda. We were wondering if there's any chance that before the recommendations happen for the license, if that could be talked about before the council does that recommendation.
Sure. Anybody have a problem moving that issue?
No,
So we will move, okay, we'll do that next, and then the liquor license after
So you want
that.
to move item C, 12C? up?
12C.
Yeah, so that it's before the recommendation, so at least we know if the viability of the
Got it,
secondary
okay.
license
Yeah,
on there
okay.
before the
Yeah.
recommendation,
Okay.
right?
that'd be
That-
great.
That makes sense.
Any other questions, you guys?
Are you going to cover anything? I see that the Pickering Barn is on here. Are you going to be participating in that given?
We can, yeah.
that's
Okay, good.
So,
Okay.
yeah, actually, that was something that could have been mentioned as well. I know that Susan's on the task force, as is Pam, and David on there, so I did sit in this, today to kind of give some thoughts and recommendations, and so we have a couple updates to go along with that as
Thank
well,
you.
so, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay, let's then move forward to this. It's currently on the agenda is 12C. We'll move that up to 10. In your packet toward the end, there's a couple things. One, Roger, we just got a liquor license for redevelopment fact sheet from MML, and then there was also some background that you did before. Roger, can you take a minute and just explain the concept here, or Peter or somebody, and why we're talking about this?
Wish I'd have known you were gonna ask me that.
Sorry.
Well, why don't we say
Well,
it,
Susan wrote it, maybe she can talk.
why don't we have Susan?
Your name's on it.
We can just wing it here, because it's basically there is a process within the state that allows a municipality to designate a redevelopment area, and liquor licenses can be granted to businesses in that area that are in addition to the liquor licenses that we have through the normal,
Allocation process.
yeah,
Yeah.
is that,
That's essentially correct, and I would add to that, that there are certain requirements in that system that
Exactly.
relate to investments that have been made in businesses and the area that are thresholds that they look for in allowing the award of these licenses. The catch with these licenses is that their target, it appears to be for entertainment and dining. And they have some requirements in terms of the number of hours that the business would need to be open and the number of days per week that it would be open in order to qualify for this license.
Okay.
in some of that, again, on this fact sheet that we got, you have to have seating capacity of 25, you have to have at least $75,000 in
No, that's-
rehab or.
That's the other one.
Oop.
There's two.
We're looking at an RDA.
So, and I'm not 100% sure why, an
This-
RDA versus a DDA, because that was kind of jumped to, automatically went to the RDA, and when you read it, I can kind of understand, I can kind of guess why, but if there were specific reasons why we're targeting the RDA instead of the DDA,
Well, yes, because the DDA requires an actual setup by the DDA. The DDA is a separate entity created by a local government. Let me explain in terms of what I experienced in Ann Arbor. They had a district within the downtown that was covered by the Downtown Development Authority. And the DDA was generating for new construction and new value added within the DDA. Those revenues went to the DDA to further invest in that area. It's a quite different system that we do not have, and most villages do not have DDAs because of that separate structure. They have their own staff, they have a board of directors, there's a number of things like that. The RDA is a more generalized process that any community could get into, meeting those criteria that we just talked about.
I'm not reading it that way. Yeah, I see the DDA method being possibly an easier route.
Right,
than
and
the
so
other.
Roger, to what your
Doesn't
point,
have an hours, it only has a seating requirement, and it seems a lesser capital investment.
Roger, me and Susan looked at that when we were going over this last week. So if you read that DDA section right there, up in the how to apply, it says if the license is in the area of the Downtown Development Authority, Tax Increment Financing Authority, Corridor Improvement Authority,
Right.
or Principal Shopping District, based on,
We could create any of those.
right, based on the Public Act of 1961, I think was the law that defined the principal shopping district. In my and Susan's reading of the law, we meet the criteria for the principal shopping district, which would mean we qualify for the DDA, which has an easier criteria to get on there.
Okay.
That was our,
Have you,
yeah.
I read it the same way.
Mine
I know that we're talking about the liquor license, establishing some kind of a district to enable an additional liquor license. Do you have an opinion, or have you been able to talk at all about which of those structures would be a fit, or if we should pursue one over the other, which would that be?
In terms of who you give the license to, or in terms of?
No, I'm talking about a DDA
No, which-
versus a principal shopping
Right.
district, a TIF, a CIA.
So
you
I,
know.
in reading about the principal shopping district, what me and Susan came in conclusion to was that Franklin, based on its master plan and having its shopping district already defined, already meets the requirement for that. So there'd be no redefinition of what the village
You
has to
could still
do.
create one of those other things for a separate
And we
purpose.
can.
But to satisfy this requirement, it looks like we already
It
have it
already
met.
exists.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it'd have to be gleaned a little bit more on
Yeah.
the legal side on
Right.
there, but on our understanding of it, the village already meets that particular criteria, which, as David noted, is a lot easier to qualify for than the redevelopment on there, because that was our biggest thing is, I don't know all of the cities, the village's finances over the flat 3 years, but I don't know if they'd even meet the basic financial requirement of $1 million per 1,000 people over the last 3 years.
But yeah, 75,000 and 200,000 into recapitalizing a new business, including construction costs and personal property
Correct.
costs, is not.
Yeah,
hard
there's
to
a
hit.
lot-
200 grand.
There's a lot of criteria to meet in that redevelopment area, and I can understand that for a bigger city, that would make sense
Yeah.
to go through that route. But I think that's why, in my interpretation, the development authority, with those 4 other criteria that you can meet, is to make it so places like here
Right.
has an easier time to get that particular license.
So the bottom line is that we have said that we're committed to making businesses in the community successful, and that we are going to be able to embark upon this direction to procure a second license, regardless of the decision that is made or was made by the Liquor Commission. Am I right?
That's what we're at.
That's what we're
Correct,
doing. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
In one of these, who is officially the applicant? The business owner?
So, I'd have to remember exactly, but I believe for the development authority area, it would be the village itself that
Okay.
submits that application. And then it's
That's my
assigned to the
understanding.
location that's there.
Yeah.
So the village would then own that? It would not be owned by the applicant of the
Correct.
business or the
It's
owner
our
of the
understanding
building?
that the property is what owns the building on behalf of the village, what owns the license on behalf of the village at the
Got
end
it.
of the day.
It's a
So if
different
somebody
kind of
sells the building, in theory, that license transfers over to the next person that's there.
Wait, say that
No,
again?
I
Say
don't
it
think
again?
that's
No?
what I understand.
No.
Well,
In
the-
our awarding a liquor
Right, that
license,
we would, it would revert back to the village, and the village would make the decision on where it would go next, again, I suppose is what I meant to say.
That's what I,
This has nothing to do with us awarding anything.
no.
no, I know,
No.
but I just
This-
wanted clarity.
The other one, the one that's available, of course, but this
Right.
process has nothing to do with us awarding anything.
Right.
Right,
It's
I just
making-
wanted to make sure, just seeing the viability of 2 options, that there's another license out there that we can try to get
Right.
at the end of the day.
Yeah,
But I thought I read somewhere and heard somewhere that, trying to find it right now, that if the business goes out of business, then the liquor, this DDA license disappears, is what I thought.
That I don't know off the
I
top of
read
my
that
head.
too.
We can look
I read
more.
that same thing.
Yeah,
I'd
right
have to
here.
I believe it does.
Well,
Ah,
either it disappears and we have to reapply for it,
Right.
Yeah.
or
It's
it
just
comes
surrender
back
the
to the,
license
Surrender.
to the commission and it'll be
Oh, no,
terminated.
so it goes back to the commission on there,
Okay.
in the
Yep.
dissolution of the existing business.
That's why it's fundamentally different than the traditional Class C
Right.
license,
Right.
Correct.
which becomes an asset of that business.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
okay.
So,
I got
So
it.
what are the next steps then? Is the?
This is an RDA we're talking about, not a DDA, so it is different. So what we're reading here is the RDA, so I don't know the answer for a DDA.
Right.
We'd have to,
That's what I'd have to find
So
out.
you should
Right.
probably get us that, the MLCC write-up for DDAs. We got the fact sheet, which comes from the Michigan Municipal League, and then there was the one that was more detailed from the Liquor Control Commission. But all you gave us was the one for the RDA, because that was the one that was being suggested. So the next time around, please get us the one that's generated by the MLCC and describes DDAs.
So I do have a PowerPoint that I sent over that does have the
Okay.
DDA issues on there if you guys wanted to
Get
see
it up?
that real quick.
Let's see it.
There was a little confusion here. This wasn't what we had submitted.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, this was, I knew you guys had to put this together.
And how
Couple
quickly
days.
can we secure this?
So, I mean, really, if the question is next steps, it's actually, there was an attachment that I sent that was actually the fact sheet as well. I don't know if you still have that one too. But then there, it's literally just going in and doing the application next and sending it to the LCC, for them to see, for them to approve and review, the information provided by the village and the business we want to try to assign it to at the same time.
That was
So
it.
do you know anything about the turnaround
Your
time?
license to read
That I don't know off the top of my head what their turnaround would be. I mean, it's still state government, so I can't imagine it's
Yeah.
super quick, but I would think if we get moving on it, we should, hopefully by the fall have some answers, in my personal opinion.
Right.
So yeah, if you keep scrolling down here.
Calm down, Dan.
Yep, so here's the authority. It actually doesn't say anything about what happens to the license in this fact sheet.
Yeah.
Should the business go away. And I do believe that that's because it's technically, I don't want to call it an asset of a village, but the village is the one who's administering it. So the village doesn't go
Yeah.
away.
Do you have one that looks like this, but it says DDA on it?
Yeah, that's the fact sheet that Kathy's talking about. It's the fact sheet from the Michigan Municipal League.
Correct.
What we're looking for is the one from the Michigan Liquor Control Commission.
Do you know something?
So that's the RDA, Dana? What Jeremy's saying is that
There
he
should be-
gave you a DDA.
There should be
that
one
looks
that's similar that says new on-premises DDA license.
Yeah, keep going. So there's the application itself, right there. So this one is the questionnaire for both, the redevelopment and the development district questionnaire
Okay.
that we would do, and then there's the actual application that goes along with it.
Okay, so that's
In there.
basic.
Right.
So, and if you scroll down a little bit further on here. So this is the section right here that talks about all the requirements of what you meet and what will happen, through the licensing on there, and.
Building shall be a restoration or rehabilitation of an existing building and cannot be a brand-new building.
Is there a limitation on how many licenses shopping center can apply for?
To my knowledge, no, you just have to meet the requirements for any of the properties that you're asking for licenses at.
Okay. So you could, in this case, apply for both sites?
We could
We don't
apply,
need both sites.
we don't need both. We just need one, but we may want another one for the future, and there's no limit.
But the other thing is that if this one's owned by the municipality, the
No.
value of the license stays within the village.
No, this isn't owned.
We don't,
No, there's no ownership here. This is
This-
a license created for a business to redevelop and repurpose itself or restart itself. And when that business goes away, the license goes away. It
Correct,
has
and
no
that's true for both.
carry
You
effect.
can verify that. We verified, it says it
Yeah.
down the bottom, and it transfers back out
Yeah.
to the
But on
commission.
the other hand, the normal license does have value to that owner.
Yes,
Oh, absolutely.
One case, one owner's
the
gonna have
regular.
yes.
real value.
Back up. So we're allowed two
That's correct.
licenses, and this is where we need a liquor license attorney. So we have two licenses to the village that we're entitled to per capita.
Right,
One's already been allocated, we're being asked to allocate the other.
right.
One of those business owners can pick up, take our license out of the village, transfer it somewhere else, and then we're down to, that can't be,
Out of the
No, I
village?
don't think that's
I don't
it.
think so.
right.
No, it stays, it
That's what I,
stays
that's
with
what
the
it
building.
seemed like.
It stays with the building.
It-
When,
that
when,
Rick
when
is saying.
Franklin was sold,
But this is the permanent license you're talking
The
about,
Class
right?
C.
Not one of these.
Not one of these, the
Right,
two
which one?
Class C licenses that we
Right.
have,
Right.
that we're entitled to per capita to issue, can never be removed from the village, can they?
no.
I didn't think so, but it's a good question.
No,
I
it's
don't
our-
know.
Because liquor licenses get out on the open market and people bring them in and out of villages, but I'm assuming those are in villages where they're above, they've already used up their per capita ones, and these are licenses that were brought into the village from other people. So if we have 2 per capita licenses and someone wanted to come into the village and open a business and have liquor served, and they're bringing a liquor license from outside of Franklin, they can do that, correct?
That's my understanding.
Yes, but nobody can take one of our 2 away with them.
Correct.
Okay.
Could they also sell the license for hundreds of thousands of dollars?
Right?
It's part of the it's
It's
part of the business.
sale of the business, of course.
So it's valuable, obviously, and the Franklin Grill used it to, you know, had it and sold it to the Franklin.
So last month, sorry to interrupt, but just want to help with some clarification. Last month, when we had this meeting, Seth Tompkin, our lawyer, was here. He's on the phone right now. He currently has COVID. Is it okay if he helps clarify a few points?
Sure.
Okay. Can you talk?
Well,
I can talk, I can't hear the specific questions. I wanted to point out a couple things. One, the Class C licenses that have already issued or will issue, the one that's to the Franklin Grill and the one that we're hoping to get issued tonight, those can definitely leave the village. There's nothing preventing them from being sold to anyone else in Oakland County. So that they, you know, those are, once they're issued, they're issued. Some municipalities attempt to enter into agreements with businesses saying that if they close down, they'll only sell it to someone within that municipality. I generally think that those agreements are probably illegal, but I also tell my clients don't rock the boat and just sign them. But generally, those Class C licenses, once they're issued, can go outside the village to anywhere in Oakland County once they're issued.
So then, if one got taken out, we lose that one, or do we get to replace it because of our?
No, once it's issued, it's issued. It's issued and gone. That's why these economic development licenses and redevelopment licenses were actually created. They were originally created by strong input from Farmington Hills, because all of their quota licenses were pretty much taken out of the picture. And so now they make everyone sign agreements not to remove licenses from the city, and most licensees abide by those agreements. But I think they might be unconstitutional, but no one really rocks the boat on those. The economic development licenses, whether you're in a DDA or in a redevelopment area, those licenses, 2 things I wanted to clarify. The applications are made by the applicants, are made by the licensees, the proposed licensees. The municipality has to provide a resolution authorizing the state to issue one of these licenses, and has to provide some information with respect to the area, whether it's a DDA showing, you have to show that you have an established DDA, or you have to show that you have an established, I think you were going to be using a retail zone, shows that you have like 10 retail establishments in the zone. I forgot what the exact language is, but that you've established this. And then you have to show the amount of investment that was done in that zone over the past, it's either 3 years or 5 years. And that's where they come up with those dollar figures, and then there's a separate quota that's set for those. And then on top of that, the applicant then has to show, in the one instance, that they put $75,000 of additional investment into the project, or in the other one, I think it's $200,000 of additional investment into the project. But the city itself does not apply for that license. It's the applicant for the license that applies for the license, and the city or the municipality, the village, would give a consent resolution authorizing that, and then the treasurer would give an affidavit showing the amount of investment over the period of time, and then you'd have to show a map as to where your location is, and show that the applicant is within that location. And now those licenses are transferable. So for example, if you gave one of those licenses up to somebody and they wanted to sell their business to someone else that wanted to operate that business, you can sell that as an ongoing concern. What would happen is that the place went out of business, though, you are correct, it would revert back to the state. And if the municipality wanted to have another one of those issued, they'd have to go through the application process again and give a new resolution and all that stuff that they did the first time.
Seth, thank you.
I get it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Feel better, yeah.
So I do just want to add one last thing in there. I do appreciate Seth telling us everything that he did. It's a good thing he is a licensed attorney, and I am not. And I do think that there's a lot of value in what Rick David said as well about the idea of, because of the realization that maybe the license could be removed from the village if the ones that the village has to allocate right now, that there may be value in applying for 2 licenses at the same time on there to do this as part of the DDA.
But again, we don't apply, the businesses.
Well, right, the
either
businesses
one
apply.
can
Correct,
if
yeah,
they
that's
wanna
true.
apply.
That's true.
We would support either one, and we
Right.
would support both, but the resolution appears, I can't speak for everyone.
I have the city of Detroit's resolution that they use, so we could give a template to people.
Yeah.
Or whatever,
Okay.
it's very simple, simple for you guys and you're all on board, so.
Yeah.
No problem, but you might, like, I just know Detroit, they authorize like 65, they haven't, I don't think they've reached that yet, but you could authorize 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 or whatever you wanted, kind of with an idea, that's where our cap is. Because I know last month, someone came in and said, oh, it's gonna turn into.
So we can do a resolution that says we support 2, and then we're done.
But you
We'd
could,
be so lucky.
you could have a very small cap. You can always vote.
Everybody's got liquor,
At one time, we
just
had,
like it was in the 1800s. That'd be great.
at one time, we had 8 in town, so.
that right?
I would cap it as 8.
Hey,
No,
man,
I'm
those
just-
were the
They
good
really
old
were
days.
8, But I'm not going there right now.
And my house was here.
So where do we want to go? Do we want to,
I was wondering, are you, Susan and Jeremy, are you looking for any kind of action from the council tonight? I'm interested in knowing what you see are the next steps.
So, I mean, Main Street Franklin is more than happy to help either of the businesses or both the businesses go the route that we're talking about right now. I think the biggest thing from Main Street's perspective, and then mine and Susan's when we met on there, was we wanted to make sure the council was aware of the other available options as well, to go along with the license that you have available as well through the village itself.
Okay.
okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
okay, cool.
Nice job.
Yeah, I am comfortable with
Good.
2 applications for licenses based on the redevelopment.
Agree. We should have,
And we can start that
And
process.
we could ask Peter to get
Okay,
a
okay.
copy of that resolution, to work on one that we would prepare. Go ahead.
We have no, Seth again, as long as there's a license available in quota, we cannot get either of those licenses issued. So the Class C has to be issued in order for the other one to become
Yes.
available.
no, we get
You
that.
can't, okay, you can't get a redevelopment
We're
license.
just talking about, for the other business and for a future potential,
Yeah.
we should go for 2 and just have them in
Well, and I
in
think,
our arsenal.
I think
Well, just so that
council,
we would have the resolution in place already that says we would support 2 of these DDA-type licenses. And then,
Right.
even though one of the criteria is there is not a Class C license available in your community, so
Right.
Seth is correct, we would have to issue the one we have.
Yep.
And based on what we just learned, probably tied to it, legal or not, an agreement that the individual owner would not take the license out of the village.
It stays in the village of Franklin.
it seems
Yeah.
to me that the proper thing for the village council to do is set a cap on the number of liquor licenses. You know, I'm sensitive to the comments about, the Wild West and the 8. But,
Yeah,
I've gotten
let's be
feedback,
realistic,
I've
yeah.
gotten feedback from residents about, wait a minute, are you gonna turn downtown into a,
No,
a series of
right, not-
nightclubs?
I get it.
Well, but.
I
people
get it.
talk.
But we're in a redevelopment
It's-
phase.
yeah,
And we're
yeah.
looking for additional revitalization. Well, I think,
So I'd like-
my point is,
And there's-
we want businesses to be successful.
There's also a Class C liquor license, which allows you to serve liquor on premises, and then there's a dancing, entertainment, and some other license, which is where your liquor license becomes a nightclub and a dance club, and we,
Permits that you.
correct, and I'm not sure we're ever gonna be in the position, or anyone on this council would issue one of those.
No.
If somebody asked, so,
We're not
And I-
interested in that
yeah,
kind
and
of
I
downtown.
don't see us turning into Birmingham of the 1990s when
No.
it was kind of out of control with all the different bars they had, and they had to curtail it.
They
But-
did.
Right.
I mean, we don't.
We're too small. We don't really
we don't
have the real
yeah,
estate. so-
We're trying to help businesses, if they think they could survive with some form of
Yeah.
liquor as a service, I personally, unless it was, we're getting to the level of 8 like we
Well-
were in the 1800s, you know, none of the businesses that are being proposed as of the date are to do anything more than have it as an accessory to their already or would otherwise be existing
So
operations.
here's another question that's come up. You may know the answer to this, Roger. Regarding going to a vote, we know that a Class C license needs to go to the vote of the people. These other
Right.
licenses that we're talking about, does that, from a charter perspective, does that question need to be put to the voters as well?
Probably.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, really?
Well,
So-
we'd have to reread the charter, because the charter was talking about us issuing, and I don't believe in any of these scenarios, we're issuing anything, other than saying we would support its existence.
Okay,
But I would
The question
obviously have to have our
stands, though.
council
we better
do
do
that,
some-
but my first read of it did not seem like we would be issuing any of these licenses, and it sounds from what Seth and this other
Okay.
gentleman have
Yeah.
said to us, that isn't the case. These are relations, these are deals between the Liquor Control Commission and a business applicant that's taking place in our village, so we have to support it. And we're doing nothing more than saying, cool.
I think I have a request. I'm sorry, Roger, go ahead.
Peter's put the language up that's in the charter, and what it says is, the sale of alcoholic liquor, beer, or wine for consumption on the premises is prohibited in the village of Franklin
Oh.
unless approved by a majority of the electors at a general or special
That's what I
election.
thought.
It has nothing to do with a license or anything like that. It's
Certainly doesn't
talking
sound
about-
like language in a charter from a community that had 8 liquor licenses in it at one
And
point
they
in
were in
time.
recovery.
So that was clearly a charter amendment, so we need to consider, we discussed it last time, I mean, that's,
Yeah.
So regardless of
we
what type
can't
of.
go to the people every time a business wants to open up and serve, I mean, that's.
So we should be looking at not only the verbiage for the ballot for the granting of the Class C liquor license, but a charter amendment?
Well,
No,
no,
just approval of X number of licenses. Is it 3 or?
Based on that read, any of these individuals that applied for a DDDA license from the state of Michigan would have to have a contingency on it that says it has, if it's in Franklin, that it also has to be approved by the voters.
Unless you guys wanna make that change, which I know is a major overhaul, we keep.
Well, we agree, that's a charter amendment, we can't do that, that's gotta be a vote, right?
This is a big step.
Yeah, that's a
So,
big step.
let me
Go ahead,
make this
Pam.
comment,
Yeah.
and then, so I think what we need to do is make a motion directing our attorney to prepare a, I don't know if it's a resolution or what, but prepare, do the research that I think he understands we're looking for to help us get this question to, answer the question about the district and start putting together some ballot language that we can consider so that this can get to the voters at the soonest opportunity.
Well, it has to get on the ballot for November, yeah?
No, not necessarily.
No,
It
not
could be a special
necessarily.
election.
We can do a
Do
special.
we want to do that?
You have one precinct here?
We have two,
2.
1.5.
Well, what's the timing in order to get this on the November ballot?
It gets a little convoluted. Simple votes for a ballot question or petition can be done by August, but there's a difference between a revision and amendment to the charter. Those are pretty involved.
I don't think
I
we're
don't-
talking about a charter
I
amendment
don't want to
here.
amend the charter. I want to follow the charter and get voter approval for liquor to be served at more places.
Yeah. I know it's in
Oh, I see
August,
what you're saying.
and I'm hoping it's, the date is after our next village council
council meeting, but maybe we can call a special meeting.
Well, we need to call a special meeting,
Right,
in
right.
my
If
opinion.
that's, yeah, if that's what we need, we'll
But
do that.
not to have a special election if we can avoid it, because we're gonna have a million people going to the polls in November. Let's get this
Yeah,
on the ballot.
Yeah,
let me take a look, and then
Okay.
I think it's August, but look,
yeah, I recall that
yeah.
it's August.
We
but-
could shoot for the November election. You know, neither business is ready to start serving drinks tomorrow, I don't think. But if we can just get that path cleared
Well,
away.
that's,
I mean, if we can just get the path cleared away, give us the research we need, that answer the questions that we've raised here, so that we can move forward expeditiously on approving ballot language and then getting this thing on the ballot for the November election. And if there's a case to be made to do it sooner than that, then let us know that
I'm
as
okay,
well.
yeah.
Might be putting the cart before the horse, but it looks like you guys want both businesses to be approved and have liquor licenses. We may want 2 ballot questions then.
You have to tell us.
you have to tell us
Yeah.
what needs to be on the ballot.
Yeah, tell us how
We're
to
gonna
do this.
have
Yeah.
a large turnout because it's an election, a national election, and a council election. To have a special election is asking people to come back. I mean, it costs us $5,000 to do that?
Right.
Pam, I wanted to add, I am ready whenever.
Yes,
Okay,
we
thank
know,
you.
we
I just
know.
wanted to clarify.
Okay,
that.
thank
I'm
you.
ready to
That's
go.
why I'm saying I would like,
November seems far away, but I understand the
Well,
process.
then, and just know that we're
on it.
We're totally supporting both businesses as much as we can. Thanks.
Right. Rick, you had a comment? You want to come up to
You
the
have to
mic?
come
so-
up.
Thanks.
Bring your chair with you if you need it.
Someone had earlier commented about the concern of being over liquored, I guess, in the village. Have you talked to the police department for their view on putting alcohol businesses in the community and the impact it could have on public safety? You asked them about golf carts, you asked them about this too.
Right.
That's a good point.
Well,
It's a good point. I don't think that we're saying we're gonna go unlimited here. I think we're just being optimistic that we're seeing some exciting new business opportunities and wanna provide successful options.
Can we have a business like mine that is doing tastings and offering liquor and wine, so.
Completely
There's
concur.
a little bit of a increase in being able to do something a little bit more
mhm.
in a very, very professional, tasteful way.
Right.
Okay.
I see August 13th, Tuesday, it's a day after we meet. Deadline for ballot wording of proposals qualified to appear on November ballot certified to local or county clerks, so we'd have to.
Well,
sign
I would say if we need to call a special meeting prior, I'd certainly avail myself, well, whatever we need to do. I think we should try to take the opportunity to get it on the November ballot. Does anybody disagree with that?
No, I think we're good, yeah.
that.
So let's do our best to get it on the November ballot.
So do we want a motion here to be clear with,
Motion to
Authorize.
put together ballot language for the November election pertaining to the liquor license and additional licenses for public.
Is it, and
Review.
when you put it through, does it have to have the name of the business that is applying for the license?
Yes.
Our
Yes.
previous ballot questions did. Correct.
Yeah, it says approve the application to a vote, so it is specific.
really two separate issues? Okay,
2 separate businesses, is that?
but it would be two different,
So we put
I
two-
guess it's how
we put two
however we wanted to read.
No, we can't do anything with 2 business.
We can't.
No.
I think we have to ask, you're
All right,
saying we
well,
have to ask,
we're-
one
We,
has to
we
be.
can't submit anything to the voters until we have first ourselves approved an application and ask them to subsequently approve it. So we have to make a decision on our own
Right.
before Peter can be directed.
Well, we're gonna
to-
make a decision shortly.
Now, he can give us a skeleton of what's needed, and then what would get filled in is the name of the business applicant if we were to issue one.
And maybe we should consult with this, with all due respect, to the other attorney that we were speaking to on the phone and/or the gentleman here, to make sure that we have the right verbiage for,
But it sounds like as much as we'd like to approve two potential DDA liquor licenses, if we don't have two businesses at the point
Oh,
to
I see what you're
ask,
saying.
we
So we
only
can
can
only
do the
approve
one that
one.
we have.
We can only approve one.
The only
Right.
thing we could get done by November is whichever Class C liquor license we choose to issue, if we choose to issue one today or in the immediate future. That would be the only thing we could get done by November. If another applicant goes through the DDA process, gets one approved with a resolution from us that says we support it, they would have to wait until either the next time we have an election, or we would have to create a special election for that applicant to have their use of liquor
Is
approved.
that right, Peter? So regardless, we're gonna have to have a special election.
No,
No?
why can't we do them both, David? I don't-
Because do we have to wait for the DDA to be approved first, is the question?
I mean, we have to make a decision on one today, then the other person has to go through that whole DDA application process and have it ready to be back to us.
So it'd
to
have to
get
be back to us
something
by
on a-
August 11th.
When's our next meeting?
I don't know if that's possible. You have to come up.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Jacobs. The village language just says to serve alcohol. Doesn't say you have a license, doesn't say.
Right.
And honestly, the process of getting a license is a lot harder than approving just the ability to serve alcohol. So why can't you have two resolutions on the ballot? And if one of them doesn't end up getting a liquor license, then they don't get to serve alcohol. You need both. And if November is this time limit, it seems like why you shouldn't just let both of them try and figure it out later if they actually get licensed.
They absolutely can vote.
Maybe.
I'm just live chatting with Seth, and so I just wanted to clarify. He says whoever loses the class tonight, they can approve for the DDA license and put it to a vote. And then he said, we don't make the application until we get city approval.
Both
Do you want me to
licenses
call
would
it?
be- Both licenses would have to be approved by the majority of electors.
Okay. Question, maybe to Susan or to Peter. So we've talked about this DDA license, or this
RDA.
other kind of license. Do we need to set up that organization in order for a business to apply for a license that would, is that a necessary step? I think it is.
What organization?
A DDA, a Downtown Development Authority.
I think they already told us that we'll qualify because we have a principal shopping district.
But we don't have a principal shopping
They
district.
said, this gentleman said, or when Seth was, or no, it was Jeremy that was up there, we
We meet the criteria for a principal
Designated,
shopping district. We do not have a PSD.
So the
Birmingham
master
has-
plan for the village doesn't have an assigned shopping district for the village?
we'd have to
No,
look.
we don't have anything. We're starting, this is Greenfield.
So
my
there's no
question-
definition of the commercial district within the village in that master plan?
In the master plan, there is reference to the village center. We also refer to it as the commercial district. But there is no map, there is no picture, there is no, any reference would be in the master plan. Do you agree, David?
I don't know
But
the master plan
it's a
that well,
reference to the
but
downtown area.
We are in the process of doing our master plan amendment right now.
Yeah.
So that would be the appropriate time to also fold that in.
Right, and admittedly, we would have to pull the law that defines what that is to make sure
Yeah,
that
we would need
everything
to
meets
find
the
out what
criteria.
are the definitions
Right,
of a
it's-
PSD.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's about 8 to 10 things when we read through it on there,
So
so.
let's get our hands
Pass
on
that
it.
So
to the
my
planning
point is, we need, that's our piece to do, because otherwise, why not,
Yeah,
they can't just out of the blue apply for a license. There has to be some kind of an organizing structure.
A defined area within the village.
Right, that meets the state's requirements for that. So so David and I worked on a thing way back in 2007 that listed out options for the council to adopt that would be one of those things. It did not pass, but we are there again. So what I would be looking for, probably from the Main Street Board.
I mean, I can get all that information
Yeah,
for you.
Yes, and we need to decide which of those structures and what it's gonna take. There's fees, there's time, I mean, it's not just tomorrow. So I think I would add to, I would make a request of the Main Street Board to work with our attorney if you, as needed, to even review that old document that we did, or bring us options and a recommendation for which way we should go to enable that license to be applied for.
Yeah, which I can get all the information for the laws on how you have to do the criteria. As Roger said, the DDA isn't what Franklin's gonna meet no matter what anyways.
I think not, yeah.
But I can pull up the other three and see that. I mean, based on what me and Susan did, it was the public shopping district would be the criteria that the
Yeah,
village
yeah.
would meet in their standards, so I can get. there you go.
Question is, when you do this map, when you make this decision, we don't know what we're doing with the Pickering yet. If the Pickering ends up on property that is governmental, if it ends up attached to the Krieger barn, I'd love to include that in there, just as a possibility. if
Our
that's
principal shopping district is gonna run from 14 Mile Road to essentially
The cemetery.
Yeah.
possible. The cemetery would be great, yeah. Make
Carroll.
this-
Yeah, I don't know if it'd go all the way up the
Carol,
hill,
maybe
probably.
Well, I mean, isn't that where the post office ends at Carroll?
But I'm saying is if you wanted to include the Pickering, would the address might be Carroll, so I guess it would be okay.
Yeah.
If the address was Carroll, then it would be included.
So it would have to be defined. And
Right.
what I don't know, indeed, I don't remember anymore what the process is to set anything like that up. So I'd be looking to you to help us.
Yeah, me and
Figure
Susan
that
can
out, yeah.
work on that, and I can work on the board, and I'll
If I
pull that
had to guess,
information.
a PSD is the simplest of those.
That's
In our reading of everything, yes, it was the easiest criteria to meet.
Yeah.
The most straightforward, I suppose, not easiest, the most
The other
straightforward.
requires some level of a separate
Oh,
board.
yeah.
Right, I would
Board.
think so too, right.
Right.
A fee, a charter.
Right. It would be more than what I interpret as just the council defining what
Yeah.
that area is, right.
Agreed.
Does
So, but I can
anybody-
do that.
Okay, thank
Does
you.
anybody know when the last time we went before our constituents for an approval of a liquor license, what the vote was?
I mean, it had to have been,
It was,
you had-
Oh,
What
that's
year
not
did
my time
was
here.
It was
Raja's
Lori Lundy.
license? Was Raja's licensed?
No,
No, the last time we had to award a license, which was to the Franklin Grill, right?
Yeah.
I would like to
Pam seemed
know
think it was Lori
some-
Grundy,
It
yeah.
was
The
Lori Grant.
demographics is so different now. I don't
Well,
think
no,
that,
I'm just
you know,
curious, because-
Raja
yes.
opened, Raja's been in business before the Franklin Grill? No, Raja was after the Franklin Grill.
Oh, yeah.
No, I bought mine full market price. It's not from.
But when
the
she
village.
opened up, did we have?
But we should have had to have agreed yours to have been here,
It
because
was
you're.
here already, I bought it from the previous, owner that was already here established in Franklin.
But I wonder if the distinction is for sale off premises v. consumption on
Cause I have a
premises.
retail
Mm-hmm.
liquor license and the county.
No, but I'm saying, the last time we had to go to our constituents
It must have
for
been
a
Must have
the
been the
vote,
grill.
Must have been the
would have been
grill.
the Franklin Grill 20, 30 years ago, whenever it was.
yeah.
I would like to look back historically and just see, first of all, what was the language? We could pull up that language.
It should be available.
That should be readily available, and I'd be curious as to how that vote went. Just, it was a different time, but,
It's a different time.
I do have the language, but I don't know how the vote went.
say it again?
I have the language of the ballot, but I
From-
don't
from
know how the
the-
vote went besides. it
Okay,
passed.
so you already have the language from the last time we,
Correct, yes.
okay, so that's,
But I don't have what the percentage.
no, I understand
I
that.
don't think it was
But
close.
that helps greatly that we have the language, so now
Very enthusiastic.
we can get that on the ballot if that's what we need to do.
Correct.
And I think we should.
Lisa, did you have a comment?
I have a question on when the wine shop originally came in, the one that, so the liquor license that Raja bought first from, would that have gone?
It should have.
It should have,
I
but-
Should
have to
have.
assume it was, but
I think so.
I think it proceeds in my,
I don't recall that.
It hasn't been that long ago. It did not go to the voters, right?
Is that the one that's even
Well, then that
What did
question
you-
is, do we
I don't
need to
know.
put
What-
that and
what was
approve
the
that
business
now,
that was
as
there
long as
before?
we're doing?
Who did you acquire it?
He acquired
Brian? Ed.
But even for Ed to have gotten the
He
license.
got it directly from the state.
But what was his business?
Wait,
What was his
I
business?
think I see the answer here. It's if the village council decides to incline to approve an application for on-premises liquor license, the council shall submit the question of the village, for an application for a vote of the electors. So the point is on-premises liquor.
Consumption.
So that means for consumption on-premises.
Oh, yeah.
That wasn't hers.
Right.
So that's why it was not in front of the electorate. And that's
Gotcha.
in, 870.08D, vote of electors.
Okay.
And it specifically notes on-premises.
And where does that license currently reside? The one that Raj has? Where does that license currently reside?
Talking at once, it's like
Your
10
license, the
parts.
one that you have now? With you?
I mean,
Not with the building? It doesn't stay with Les Gorbach?
It's an off-premise retail.
So it goes wherever you, okay.
Okay, let's,
And our
Okay.
charter.
let's try and summarize this. I'm right, I think there's two things we need to do. One is this principal shopping district and what's the process and how do we develop it?
Yeah.
And then the second is developing ballot languages for 2 licenses. Do we agree?
Well, I took a quick look with Roger's help. For a principal shopping district, there has to be a minimum of 10 retail businesses.
Oh, we have 10.
We have 10.
We have 10.
Retail?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
They're
Right,
not
retail.
all
Susan,
bars.
right? Susan, we have 10 retail.
I can, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. I have
Okay.
5 or 6 just in the strip mall.
Okay.
Yeah. that's-
Okay, well, that's what we have to flesh out between now and the next meeting, so. So I think if we get answers to those 2 questions, I have a lot of, like the Class C license and keeping it in town, how do we do that? And what's the actual process for whether it's redevelopment or, what's the other one here, the DDA? Or, well, I guess no, we've said it's PSD, not either of
Can
the
only
2,
be a
so,
DDA.
okay.
The other
But
thing-
I think if we can get those 2 issues resolved, that puts us way down the road.
Can you repeat those 2 issues, just so I have them clear?
I'm sorry?
Can you repeat those 2 issues again?
The first is, we need the process, we don't need the process, we need to establish a principal shopping district. So, and I don't know what the process is, but we have to have is it a legal entity? I don't know. But that's the basis for moving forward with these licenses.
How do we not have that now?
I don't know, but that's a question I'm
Let's see
asking.
what the criteria is.
Guys,
Right, so-
15 years ago, this village council said there's government and there's business. They're on
Right.
2 planets. We have come a long ways from
Yeah,
there. There is nothing in place
Right,
to
right.
do this.
So what I'm asking Roger and Peter this is your assignment, what's the principal shopping district? What does it consist of? How do we set it up? All that stuff. And then the next step, which I think is pretty simple, is develop ballot languages for these 2 businesses that we can ask voters, will you approve consumption of alcohol by those 2 businesses at these specific addresses? Okay? I think
Correct. We would need
Yes.
ballot resolution. One would be to approve an application for a Class C liquor license, and that applicant for the time being would be blank until we took action. And the other would be a resolution to support a DDA license for whoever,
Or PSD license, yeah.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
DDA license inside of that person would qualify because they're inside a PSD.
Okay,
Yeah.
And have draft language to fill in the blank as well for a request to the voters to approve what would be the equivalent of an MLCC issued DDA license for the
For lack
service.
of a better
yeah,
term.
yeah,
Make
okay.
it easy to understand.
And the third part of that is I've asked, and they've accepted, the Main Street Board to research the various structures and to bring us a recommendation.
Are you talking about principal shopping
Should it be a
district?
principal shopping district? Should it be a CIA? Should it be a DDA? I realize there's better chances in one or the other, but I'd like them to, they've already done the research, they can give it to us. We learn in the process, and then we get about the
You
business
can
of
have
setting that
all of
up.
those. It's not a
Yeah.
one or the other. So we need to establish a PSD no matter what, so that if anybody wants to come in the future and apply for one of these business licenses, they just have to go through the process, and we don't have to establish that. So yes, we need to establish a PSD
So-
without question.
So we're not gonna stop the
Then,
PSD
do we wanna go back
establishment?
and revisit what you're talking about is a corridor improvement authority, a traffic, and whether we wanna establish one of those which has a greater.
I am generically saying, we have to have some kind of an organization in place for this, what, this hypothetical second liquor license.
No, I don't-
Is a, well, then whoever it is should just go to the state right now. Why are we even
As long
talking about it?
as we just need to determine whether or not we satisfy the requirements of a PSD, and until someone gives us those requirements, someone can't make that
I
determination.
understand. I think we do need a PSD.
We
Okay,
do
okay,
need
That
then
could be
that's-
as simple
that's-
as a vote at our next meeting.
I don't know that. I'm asking
No, that's-
our board
Right.
Okay,
to
well,
do that for us. They will do it. They've already done 90% of the work. They will do it.
okay. I'm good with that.
All right.
Rather our attorney do it, but,
Okay.
Well, it's cheaper to have them do it.
But they're not attorneys.
But they've done the research, and they can, and I've already asked them, and Jeremy has said they will work with Peter. It's already done.
It's a starting place. Once we get
That's
stuff,
fine.
then we can decide to go from where. Okay. So we had a motion here, Mike, that we didn't really move forward on, but, and maybe we don't need one, if you guys have the assignment and choose to accept it. Okay. So, and I guess if this stuff gets put together quickly, I'm okay with a special meeting to take the next step. So,
Take us a couple of days to get back to you on that.
okay. We have a ton of people out there. Should we take the time to listen to them, or do you wanna, I don't think we're gonna make a specific decision tonight, but we're certainly willing to.
We're
Wait,
gonna make a
why aren't
decision
we?
tonight.
Are we, or,
We have a recommendation.
Yeah, we have a recommendation.
okay, I didn't realize we had a recommendation. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Consider the recommendation for the Class C liquor license.
Okay.
That came from
I thought that
So
was more
I-
discussion.
Who was the committee?
So it's me,
Mark.
Hankey, and
All right,
David.
so at least you're
So
here.
it's me.
Yeah, so Kathy can tell us what
Okay.
transpired.
So let's move on to that issue then. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, whether we take action or not, we still have to go through let's go through the process, let's hear.
Okay, so 10B is reconsider recommendation of available Class C liquor license approval.
Okay, well, we sat and we talked, and we looked at the value of both businesses, and they both are incredibly valuable to us. And it was a really hard decision, I think, for us to make, because we don't want anyone to feel less than, or to not be valued. And the fact that we're working so hard to create a space for whichever one we don't choose to be able to have a liquor license, I want you to know that we care about you both, and we don't want anyone to feel badly. I think ultimately, what we decided was, and I think I'm gonna speak for myself, because I don't know that I can necessarily verbalize what their two other thoughts were. But we did come to an agreement that we would choose Lisa McDonald's property, and the reason was because more people could benefit from this property, because adults and children can be there, because it would be more inclusive, because there would be more availability for alcohol to be consumed with a larger quantity of people, I think, and it has the parking that's available, and it has more possibility for, like, the green area with Comerica, if that was ever approved, to be able to utilize for kids to run around and play. It just felt like it makes more sense, as Raja is wonderful and has been so helpful to the community, and I know that Lisa will also be so valuable to the community as well. So that we appreciate you both, and I really don't want anyone to feel badly. It's about the space itself, and I think also that the space of coming from a historic background, looking at the space that once was the center of the community, really was the market, which is no longer, the building still stands, and the what used to be the farmhouse, and it used to be very long ago, it was the brick house, and now, more recently, it was the farmhouse, and it's where people gather, and it's got more space, and I just think it has more potential, that's all. So,
Okay, so that's the recommendation. We have a motion?
I would make a motion to accept the recommendation of the Liquor Committee and award the only available current license, Class C license, to the Gray Dog Cafe,
Pending approval from. the
pending
voters.
approval from our constituents.
Is there a second?
Can I second it?
Sure.
I second.
Discussion?
So are we, whether it's enforceability is a secondary issue, but I'm presuming that we are gonna ask that as part of this application, that the applicant agree in writing not to remove the license from the village if they
Exactly.
choose not to use it in the future?
Right. I
So-
would,
So
I
is this a
would,
motion subject to an agreement? that,
subject to the agreement that the license will remain in the Village of Franklin for our discretion, and that the village constituents approve it.
Is there a cost to the license?
It's a valuable piece of property.
No, I understand that. I'm wondering if there a cost for the business to get it now. It's of course to be transferred,
For a
it's a
new
valuable
license.
property, but to a new license.
There's application fee.
But is it is it just that small? Like, is it a small?
Smaller than,
Than purchasing it?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just curious. Because would that be something that if they were going to leave it with us, would we give back that $1,000, or would that, I'm just curious, because it'd be something you'd be giving up if you were leaving the liquor license. I guess that's for someone else to decide, I'm just curious.
So
But to further the conversation, again, and we said this last month as well, our goal here is to ensure a growing Main Street marketing area. We're excited about the prospects that both parties have presented, and we are focused on both parties being successful in getting their licenses.
So we have a motion to award the Class C license to Gray Dog, Lisa McDonald, and it was amended. Are you okay with the amendment?
Yes,
Based on, okay. Any further discussion? Are there folks in the audience that want to make a comment? Nobody?
Can I just, I mean,
Sure.
so obviously my client wants full steam ahead on the other option. She's probably not excited,
Mhm.
and I understand that.
Mhm.
But we're gonna work together with Peter and with you guys, whatever it takes to get that second license going. So appreciate your time, looking forward to working with you. Obviously, we'll be back, we'll be in front of the electorate and all that stuff. So, Peter knows my number and, my vibe is you want both. Not
Absolutely,
one.
and
This wasn't a.
You
It's
can-
not a vibe, it's a
You
for
can
sure.
count on us,
Okay,
to-
all right.
I
you
mean,
can count on
I
us to be
don't know how
as-
much more
yeah.
upfront we can be.
No, I
Right.
got that, so I appreciate it.
No, we will be as supportive as we can be.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Absolutely.
Right.
And everyone's gonna help each other. I mean, it's wonderful. The more we have, the more business, the more people that
And there's
are
some things,
excited.
like you said, there's some things you gotta figure out, the PSD and all that, if that's the best route, which it looks like it is, but
Right,
whatever we can do to help.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
We'll call you. Thank you.
Thank you.
okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, congratulations, Lisa.
That was,
Okay,
that was so bad.
we have a
That
consent,
was an abomination, in my opinion. Whatever. Okay.
we have a consent agenda to approve 3 civic events, Labor Day Roundup, the Summer Block Party on August 21st, and the Franklin St. Francie on October 26th. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Any comments? In favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now priority waste contract. We have a new trash company.
The gentleman who is representing Priority is here. If you have questions for him, we've talked about this at council in the past.
He's recovering from the beating we gave him when we were sitting together.
Good evening, Vincent Hoyamp, attorney and chief of staff for Priority Waste.
And Sam Carabagno, Municipal Relations. Good evening.
Hi, guys.
Do we have a motion here? on this issue?
I would make a motion to,
Why are we what's the hurry up for all the motions? Can we have discussions before we rush?
Don't you
through
put a motion
motions?
in before you have discussion, Dave?
Well, not on things like when we're deciding on a decision, when we haven't had a discussion, we didn't even let either of the people speak again today.
We
Like,
asked if they could speak. Nobody wanted to speak?
okay,
Okay.
make a motion.
well, if we make a motion, we then discuss it.
Understood.
Okay, so I'm
In
just
this instance-
I'm making a motion to
In
consider,
this instance, it makes sense.
I'm making a motion to consider the priority waste contract.
I'll second.
Okay. Questions, or do we need an explanation here, or?
Well, Roger, why don't you?
Well, I would like the folks from Priority to talk about what they're doing and why, and how this came to be.
Sure. So, Priority Waste, we've been in business since 2018. In March of this year, we were approached by Green for Life USA, which was your prior waste hauler, to acquire their routes as well as their trucks. Your particular contract expired June 30th of this year, all right? So I know GFL had approached the village about entering an extension. Those negotiations unfortunately did not pan out. So when myself and GFL ultimately entered an agreement, I approached all the various municipalities. And so I met with Roger as well as Michael and David to discuss, how to move forward. Again, because your contract expired June 30th, I had advised that, in order to continue working in the village, I would need the approval by the village council, all right, for that service. So we're here today. There is no current contract. Right now, we have a agreement for the rates that right now, Priority is continuing to provide the service as you currently have, all right, at a price of $19.50, and that's good through the rest of this month. What I had discussed with Roger and David and Michael is the fact that if I were to continue manual service within the village, the rate would need to be $24.85, all right?
Per month?
Per month, all right? That's because of the fact that historically, you entered your contract in 2016 at that point, which was a below market rate of $12.85 per month per unit, all right? That's not as sustainable. And so, and frankly, that's part of the reason, not just the Village of Franklin, but there were a number of contracts that GFL had that were under market, which frankly prompted them to look for an exit of the residential market. So at this point, Priority Waste services in the Metro Detroit area, well over 100 of the municipalities. There are a handful of municipalities, those are the Sakura communities. So for example, the city of Troy, which has Tringali, the city of Birmingham, which has Car Trucking. And then if you live in a community where Waste Management has a landfill, so let's take, for example, Lenox Township, you have Waste Management. They have, between those three companies, approximately 15 communities. The remainder of the Detroit communities, if they've contracted with a single hauler, is with Priority Waste. So, the rate that I have provided, in discussing how we could provide services at a lesser cost point than the $24.85, I pointed out that the current service is what we call a manual service, right? It's without a cart. Everybody can put out anything that they want in multiple bags, which requires me to use a specific type of truck, have an additional, what we call a helper or a loader on that truck, all right, to help put that garbage into the truck. Now, from a safety standpoint, that's less safe than what I have proposed, which is the automated service. That automated service states that, we would pick up the garbage that's in a 95-gallon container, which would be provided by the village, and we would do that for both the trash and the recycling. The compost can continue to be put out the same way it is, in the compost bags or in a container. But that is the proposal, so that to go from that $24.85 to my proposed price for automated service, which was $19.50. Again, that would be contingent upon the village buying those containers. I've proposed a purchase price, which is $75 per container, so that's $150 for 2 containers to the village, which is a very competitive cost. Frankly, if you were to go to Home Depot, you'd probably be paying $125 or more per container. I've proposed that if a resident wants to order a second container, they could purchase that container on their own, and I would charge $110 for those containers. Again, less than what you would see at a Home Depot, because I buy those containers directly from the manufacturer. So any questions that you may have, I know it could be a shock to the price, but in all honesty, your prices have been just kept at a unreasonably low level for a long period of time. I commend you all for being able to obtain a 8-year contract at a fixed price of $12.85. It's just not realistic given the current economics of the waste business.
And we did meet with other competitors, and we weren't able to procure anything better.
You said 1 container. Is there not a container for recycle as
No,
well?
2 containers.
2 containers?
Yes.
And it's $75?
One for each.
So it's $150
Total for the 2 containers. 75 each container.
So that's about $150,000 total investment by the people of Franklin to 1,000 houses at $150.
Well, it's
Plus then you
$150 per resident.
Right, times 1,000.
And then you have businesses.
Right.
And then you have the Village Green and the
Right,
FCA property,
right.
which is a lot more too.
Yep. That's a big chunk of change.
Well, the villagers, we're each going to pay our own way. It's not
I know
government's.
that. I just
Yeah.
telling you that everybody has to,
Well, if we didn't do that, Bill, then it would be the $24.
I understand that.
Well, I've got questions, but let me know.
Go ahead. You're up.
I know when we originally talked, we discussed this as the village would purchase 2 containers for every resident, and the residents would reimburse the village. And you're talking about for garbage collection, a 93 gallon, and for recycling, a 65. Now, a lot of residents, myself included, have all kinds of containers that satisfy the ability to be automated. They're not 95 gallon, they're probably 65 gallon, and just the same size as the 65 gallon recycle bin that I have that just happens to say GFL on it now because they were our last contractor.
That's not a problem.
So the question is, 1, can we change it from the idea of we're gonna buy one for everyone to, it would take a little work between us, but more of like, between now and that September date of yours, a resident has to obtain one of those, use one of their existing, and be putting their garbage out in that manner by that date, or by a month before that date. So by August 30th, if you're not already putting all your stuff in these types of containers, then your trash won't get picked up, or you have to obtain the container. Because I know there's a lot of people that are gonna say, I'm only here half the time. I couldn't generate enough garbage to fill a 95-gallon container in 4 weeks, let alone 1 week. Why can't I keep using my good old 55-gallon container that has the little hook to get automated? I mean, the truck comes and automates them now. As long as they're automatable, can any resident provide one of their own? And would you allow the GFL recyclable containers to be used in lieu of everyone having to buy a new one and take the nice green GFL one they have and throw it away to get a new one that says priority waste?
I have no problem with that. So let me be clear, all right? So the draft of the contract is not something that is saying to take it or leave it. That was never the intention, okay?
No, of course.
So the container language was to provide a consistency and which I found is normally requested, but I'm very flexible, all right? And since I acquired all of the GFL containers as well, I have no problem with using and substituting the GFL containers, nor do I have any objection to making the contract open such that the resident can provide their own container. So there was never the intent to mandate each person to buy 2
100%,
containers.
and we talked about it at the time,
Absolutely.
and the automation for sure is the way to go because of the cost savings. It was just since we met like 2 weeks ago, the last 2 trash days, I've now driven around, I'm like, wow, a lot of people really do already have automatable containers. Why would I force that resident to spend $150 and add more into their garage or throw away one that they have that's perfectly usable?
I have
So
not
the
a problem with that.
automation route for sure.
Yep.
But that was the one tweak there.
Absolutely.
I mean, outside of that, I mean, I had some real general questions.
And can they be 65 gallon?
Yes.
So it doesn't have to be 95?
It does not have to be 95. If the resident wants to use a 65-gallon container, that's fine.
Okay.
But you would provide a 95 at that rate.
Absolutely,
Are those
which
less,
is,
less expensive?
So,
as a practical matter,
Yeah, go ahead.
the cost of it at the $75 is like a $3 difference.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
So what happens when people have like, a lot of garbage, right?
Sure.
You have furniture you wanna put out. Right now, we can put anything out that we wanna put out. We have certain dates that will be decided upon.
No, in the contract, I provided that the resident can put 2 large bulk items every week.
every week. Right now, we probably put out more than 2, so now you'd have to kind of hold back. So only put out like the bed frame and the mattress this week, but not also the dresser and and then the next week too.
So you just leave it if it was too much and you wouldn't take it?
We would tag it to identify that this was not per the contract.
Okay.
And that person would either have to bring it back in, or I thought the contract said you would reach out to them and say, hey, if you want, we'll pick it up, but it's gonna cost you.
Again,
X
yes,
dollars.
because of the fact that, you're going to have residents that do their own remodeling as an example, or they do a large cleanup, whatever the case may be. And the reality in those situations that they should be getting what we call a roll-off, an open-top container, whether it's a 10-yard or 20-yard, a dumpster, where they use that. But some residents would prefer to put it out at the curb, which is fine, but there's a limit to how much we can pick up.
I admittedly took advantage of that with our last, and there was way more than they should be taking at one time. And they were really always cool and but I see the world's changing. And we have to be prepared for that change.
So you're the reason our current company quit?
Could be. I tip them, but they definitely weren't thrilled.
What do you mean by automated?
Automated, so we will have a truck that has a mechanical arm, where we don't have to have a helper, right? The driver goes and pulls up to the house and hits a button, the arm comes out, picks up the container, and then dumps it into the truck.
And he wheels around and puts it in front of the thing, right?
Well, see, what happens is the resident puts their can out in front of the driveway, right? That arm can be manipulated so that it's in the same spot, and it picks it up and puts it back down in the same spot. Now, where there's a bulk item, that sort of thing, the driver would get out and probably put it into the container so that the arm can pick it up, or use the arm to pick up a mattress or whatever the
The
case
container has
may
to
be.
be facing a certain way at the
Correct.
curb.
It
which
does.
Our residents would need to be, and I believe it does say this side out.
It does.
It does.
It shows basically the,
And you would naturally put the handle side out, and it's the other way. You're actually supposed to put the handle towards your house. and
correct.
leave
You
the
basically
open
push your
part-
container, the
silver
open part.
The silver part.
Yeah, you want the handle to be on the back of the container
Correct.
facing your
It's
house.
not the natural way. So, and they just drive up and someone
Yep.
doesn't come and wheel it
Boy.
in front. He can just come up to it,
It just come up to it,
pick it up,
correct,
because he's at that height. Gotcha.
absolutely.
So with regards to, my questions are regarding recyclables and yard waste. So
Yes.
right now, recyclables go into a container.
Mhm.
And I'd like to know, where do they go? And what happens with material that's not recyclable? Is that the recycling site's job to sort through all of that?
That's correct.
You're just the transporter?
We pick it up, all
You
right?
pick it
And
up,
then it
okay.
will go to a material resource facility.
Okay.
It would likely go to the one in Southfield, which is run by Republic, all right, because that's the
So you contract
closest.
with them
I
for
do
that.
have a contract with them to take that. Now, What happens is, there is what we call a base contamination rate. So, recycling should not have more than 20% of the total polluted by trash. Now, trash is defined as an example, as a pizza box. A pizza box, while it's cardboard, is trash because you can't process the grease, all right? If you have literal trash, all right, the total can't be more than 20%. If it's more than 20%, then I will get charged a disposal fee of an additional, usually it's about $100 a ton for that. So, you know, my AI on my cameras on the trucks are pretty diligent to see what's getting put in there. And if we see a high contamination rate from particular addresses, what I normally do is reach out to, you know, the village as well as the homeowner and say, you've got a high contamination rate here. We're not going to be picking this up, all right, and let you know that we'll treat it as trash, you know, as such.
Okay, thank you.
But, you know, so your cardboard, your metal, your plastics, all right, your glass can all go to the material resource facility. They sort that, and then they sell it to the recycling market, cardboard in particular.
And what about yard waste?
Mhm.
Does that get picked up and commingled with the trash?
No,
or
it
is
does
that
not.
separate?
Under Michigan law, that has to go to a separate yard compost facility. So many facilities are combined. For example, Woodland Meadows has both a trash and a compost area, all right? Or I could go to some place like Taylor Hills in the city of Taylor, which is just for yard waste.
So there's 3 trucks that come by then?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
no problem.
Do you have one more?
So who's going to administer the sale of trash cans?
I think
That's a big job.
we'll have to work that one out.
Okay.
And there's,
Well, the biggest is gonna be how do we get the information out to everybody that says by August 30th, you need to be putting all of your trash in, and we'll have to,
by September 30th.
Yeah,
well,
They have to
that's a
purchase
lot
it.
of
no,
stuff
there,
to do.
our
in a row.
contract says that we have to have that in place by September 30th. But if our residents don't have it in place by August 30th, we need a month to order them for those people that don't have them, so that come October 1st, their trash gets picked up.
Correct.
But are you going to bill the resident directly, or do we have to
We,
get
we,
involved in
we
it?
gotta figure that out.
We gotta figure that out.
We gotta figure that out.
Because that's a big deal. A lot of work.
Well, the education of it is a big deal.
Right.
If we were gonna pay for it, we would have to do an ordinance amendment.
Right.
We would have to amend our ordinance to allow us the ability to do that, because that ordinance would have to be amended to allow us ability to collect, which would typically be like if you don't, in a city that has water, if you don't pay your water by a certain date, they add it to your tax bill, and then you're definitely paying it.
Right.
So,
That means it has to go on the ballot, which means we wouldn't be till, we'd have to do a special election.
no, I don't think that's a charter amendment, I think that's an ordinance amendment. I think we would just have to amend our.
Thank you, Ray.
How
trash
have we
ordinance.
dealt with the trash containers previously?
Right now, it's not a requirement under our contract.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, how did we distribute the current containers? Did our villagers come here and pick them up, or?
No,
Yeah,
called-
They did?
Yeah.
Here?
Went-
Yeah.
I bought mine at Costco, and then my
Oh, the
current
recycling ones,
recyclable I
yeah.
bought from GFL. I had to go online, I requested it,
Mm.
they billed me, and they dropped it off.
They're offering to deliver one of each to each resident.
Right.
And we
How
will
we-
offer that to people. If you don't wanna if you don't have it already, and you don't wanna go out and get your own,
And it's
we
a
will
good
have them
price.
delivered. They'll be the bigger size at the cheaper rate, so anyone who wants one should certainly take them up on their offer. I'm just saying, having driven around, we have so many residents that don't need them already. I personally don't really need them.
No, I wouldn't either.
I agree.
So I just didn't wanna force everyone to buy them
Sure,
when
well,
we
and
didn't
you're
need them.
driving around, how many 95-gallon containers do
Zero.
you see in our community?
They're spread throughout the community. The problem you have without buying all new is you've got waste management containers out there, you've got Rizzo containers, you've got GFL containers, you've got any range of 5 or 6 different type of containers.
We do.
Then you have different for recycling as well as trash. So for uniformity, if you go with the current program, you'll have all kinds of different containers. If you went to a double container system for everybody, it would look very uniform.
I think it would,
But
we would like
In your
uniformity.
experience, whether you buy it at Costco or it was an old one from GFL or a new one you bought, do they all generally have that, whatever you're trying to hook up to, in the same spot?
They don't all need the bar anymore. The automated truck has a claw, you reach out, grab it, tip it.
Oh, it doesn't need the bar.
Not all the time.
Oh,
What you want to look at, though, is the quality of the plastic that was used, all right? Just, you know, we have a very good provider. We use Sierra Container, and our warranty rate on that is very low, all right? Such that, because the claws, if it's bad plastic, you know, that it's strong enough, it will crack those containers. So if it's a substandard container, all right, it will absolutely crack it. And
How are we gonna figure that out?
whatever, if you've got a substandard container and they go to use the claw and it cracks, then you better get a new one.
It's correct, it's
They can-
substandard.
Can you offer the additional, the $75, the price for after you've already started with?
no, what it is the 75 is the initial, and then post-launch, it'll be $110. Now, those containers are fully warranted, so if I crack it, I replace it.
I've got a question for you.
Sure.
So I read through the contract, and I have a lot of confidence in the people here that you were meeting with. One of the things I'm curious about is customer service. So I'm aware that on trash days in this village, the people in our office typically get a lot of phone calls.
Sure.
A few, too many, depending. They're late, they left garbage all over the place, something happens. How do you handle on a,
They always forget me.
they forget me?
Right.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. So how, what's the process that you use for
Absolutely.
resolving customer issues? And I'd like to know specifically, when would you be calling the homeowner directly? You've already described one incident. But when and how do you interact with the office staff? How does that
Absolutely.
work?
All right, so all of our trucks are equipped with 6 cameras that see everything around the truck in a 360 degrees, all right? So that if a resident were to contact, whether it's the village or ourselves, saying, you missed our garbage, all right? We're able to go and look at the video to see whether or not that particular resident had their garbage out, because it's all GPS located. So I can see at any time where my trucks are, what my trucks have done throughout the entire day. And I can go back and see what they've done basically for a full year, and I can pull video basically for a full week, all right? So, and everybody's gonna call immediately, or at least within that day, okay? If that, whatever it is, that trash, recycling, yard waste, if we didn't pick it up and, because we missed it, we go back and rectify it that day, all right? Because we're able to address it. Now, if the resident, because of the fact that they were used to their prior provider picking up their garbage at 11 a.m., for example, so they didn't bother to get out there at 10, but we start at 7 a.m. promptly because we're trying to get our employees home and off their streets at a reasonable time, right? So the first time, we usually give it a pass, saying, okay, yeah, your garbage is out, but let's be honest here. We were by your house at 8:30, your garbage wasn't out, and here's the video. But we're gonna go back and do you a solid and pick it up. But next week, gotta be out there by 7 a.m. Otherwise, you'll have to pull it back and we'll pick it up the following week. We do that for everybody, a one-time shot, saying, okay, especially with what we call new service, all right? While we've been servicing your community since July 1, so we picked it up last week and then today, all right? We're using the same trucks and same drivers, because part of that acquisition is I bought those trucks, all right? So we won't have that initial, all right, get to know you type of period where we're not familiar with the routes, all right? We have that already because, for the sake of continuity, I offered jobs to basically everyone in that residential department, provided that they pass the typical background checks. And then, oh, I didn't fully answer the
Yeah,
question
I
then.
was gonna
Okay.
The office staff,
So,
how do you loop through?
Yep, so since we see those videos, all right, we've got to the point where our hold times, barring this last week, okay, because we've have a number of new people just getting, number of new residents not familiar with how Priority does things, that sort of thing, right? But our typical hold times are under 20 seconds, and our call resolution is under 2 minutes, all right? So when a person calls, all right, we enter all their information into our portal, which then gets routed out to our field operation. So they note that, hey, we had this person call in, this has been verified that this was a missed pickup, go back and pick it up, all right? That portal we make available to all of our communities. So any, if there was somebody here designated, or if the entire village council wanted to have access to that portal, you could see who made a complaint. You could see, okay, this complaint was registered, this was handled on this date, it was by this time, and this is what the resolution was. So we encourage all communities to direct any complaints from the residents directly to us.
Okay,
All right.
that's really kind of what I want.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So
She's
you-
cheering.
So you have a supervisor of some sort, or someone in the field, I think GFL, there would be a guy that would be driving around in a pickup truck. So there's somebody in the field that if you get a call that said, hey, they missed the trash at so-and-so house. somebody can
Yeah, we won't,
buy-
we've got to the point where we don't need that pickup truck. We're able to route back those individuals, that truck who missed it, saying, and that's a learning experience for that driver, all right, saying, yeah, you got to go back. You missed this road, for whatever the case may be, all right? So we use that as a learning to point out that, hey, everybody makes mistakes. You got to go back there and pick it up.
Gotcha, okay.
Question about bulk materials. So if I have 6 boards that are 6 feet long, can I put all those 6 out, or
Yes.
can I only put 2 out?
Well, no, we would consider that one item.
And then what happens when somebody's clearing out a house and they have a whole bunch of stuff?
In that type of situation, as I stated, we would take 2 large items and tag the rest, and we would use that as an opportunity to advise the resident saying, okay, because there'll be an explanation as to why we didn't pick it up. It was too large, too much, whatever the case may be.
But
When that,
how do we get you to pick that up? Because this is a once-in-a-10-year
Somebody
thing for
left the
somebody.
house. and-
sure,
Yeah,
okay. So if they've moved out and nobody picked it up,
Right.
all right, then, depending on the situation, I would talk to Roger, talk whoever, all right, and we would work out whether or not this was something that's small enough where I can send back a truck to pick it up, or if it's too large for that, then, we'd have to work out some type of alternative, such as I would, basically we'd need maybe get a roll-off container there to fill it. Again, I don't know how much is there, so, we're dealing with a hypothetical.
Right.
But, we've dealt with move-outs and other evictions in the past, and, we handle it on a case-by-case basis, depending on the situation.
and is
But
that
other than the
service
move-out-
included in the rate that you're proposing?
I'm sorry?
Is that an extra charge service, or is that?
Yes, if it's beyond the daily pickup, we would have to charge an additional rate for that.
In here, it's-
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Change is tough. This is gonna be a hard one to get everybody on board.
I still have a couple questions.
Go ahead, David. Hang on.
Where is
we-
this 1858 number coming from? I didn't recall we had that many houses.
That was from your prior contract.
We have 1,100, plus the businesses, and there's not,
Yeah,
But do you
I would-
count every bucket that's here? Like the FCA must have like 10, I don't know.
well,
Yeah,
no,
but
this
that's
isn't,
not-
And that-
this
that
isn't
Green has like
containers, this
10.
is.
That's
the-
not-
the
No, that-
official
it is
count
number of units.
Residential dwelling units is 1,858.
We don't have that many residents.
no.
Yeah, well, again, that one we can change that,
Well, we could
but
figure
my
it out.
recollection,
Roger could, I've always operated on the impression we had roughly
1,300.
11 to 1,300.
we
right, and
will
like
correct,
2,200.
whatever the
Yeah,
whatever
we
the correct
definitely
number
need to
is.
get-
Yep.
And we need to make you comfortable, we certainly don't want to
Absolutely.
take advantage of you.
Absolutely.
But that number seems high, because when I was doing the math, that number times 1950 is a lot more than whatever you take, if you took that number and multiplied it by, could we pay about right now? It wasn't in this month, but, and from prior months, it's about 14,000 a month.
12, 14.
So, right, so if you just use $14,000 and divide it by that 1286, that would give us what's that number? What's 14,000?
14,000 divided by 1286?
12.86.
No,
14,000.
14,000 divided by 12.86.
That number,
No, no.
Can it be a second, I can give the number from my email the other day.
Yeah, what was that number? 1,087, right?
1,087.
that number, again, because there was no RFP.
No, understood.
So,
So
you know,
that-
that's fine. That number is something that's easily changed. Yep.
Yeah.
Whatever the number is, the number is.
Yeah, we don't,
But they
we don't
have
have new
on that
subdivisions.
census, they have changed on that census.
But that's residents, not this is not residents, this is houses.
But you're charging us $19.50 per resident.
It's per home.
Okay,
This
so
is
really
per home.
it's a- Yeah,
Yeah, it's per residential unit, and the easiest way that we look at that is,
So you-
normally municipalities look at their water bill, as an example, how many units are on the water bill.
We have private wells.
Oh, well,
Doorside pickups, some people have, their senior citizens can't get to the curb and they have doorside pickups.
so we do offer doorside service at a different rate. As an example, West Bloomfield Township, Bloomfield all have specific doorside. My normal doorside rate is about, what is it? Yeah, it would come out to about $75 to $80 a month, somewhere around there. We would go up to the door, pick it up. Now, that's a month. That's a month.
That's less than what you're gonna charge, $20 is per.
Yes, they're all per month.
1950, it's like 36,000.
No, we could put that into the contract that, again, if a person wants doorside, they can opt for doorside. But I'm gonna make a point that, you know, because this is a single-pay municipality, it makes it, you know, you have to control and determine who is going to be eligible and receive that doorside service.
Do we
All right,
have
'cause-
anybody currently that's doing that?
yeah.
Yes.
We
Yeah,
do?
A lot of people do, yeah,
Oh, really?
yeah.
You have doorside service here.
Right, we have a list of residents, but with our previous contract, they would contact you and they would make arrangements with you and they would pay you in and out of pocket.
In addition, I'll have to consider that, and this is the reason why, all right? To simplify the billing process, right, there's one bill that goes to the municipality. I don't like to get into a separate billing where I'm billing a customer in addition. So they're paying X amount through the village for their regular service, plus that they're gonna pay extra for the door side. It's much easier, and it's just more uniform if the village determines, okay, these are the people that want door side, this is how much I don't want to be in the collection business, right?
But
And
neither do we.
I
That's
get
the
it,
issue, right.
I get it.
Right,
So, you know, it's a situation where they've paid for the curbside, right? But they don't pay for the door side, and then I have to go after them and threaten them to stop service, but I have to still pick up their curbside if they paid the curbside through the village. So that's why a single bill, I would just, if we determine that there's 50 residents that have the door side and here's the list, I would just bill the village for those 50 door side and go from there.
that's gonna be an issue, we gotta, yeah, I don't know that we have the resources to do all of that, you know, that's,
How many do we have?
I bet you've got somewhere between 40 and 60.
yeah.
We do?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
I know it's not appropriate to renegotiate contracts. We can discuss about the new containers and whether some can keep and some can't, and you would decide that. I don't know why, as a cost of picking up the contract, you go do your rounds, identify those containers that don't meet your criteria, and give them new containers. So this part of the, then those that worry about billing, those that worry about everything, you'll have the appropriate containers for those that need it, based on your criteria.
That's what we're proposing.
Well, that's,
It should be included in the thing.
It should be part of the cost of taking on the contract. If they want to change the containers, I don't know why they can't absorb that cost as part of their business.
That would be the ideal, is just, hey, that's part of the transition and,
Not everyone's gonna need them,
and,
then you have to worry about billing.
with all due respect, all right? If this was subject to a full RFP and there were other bidders and there was contractual, negotiation that was possible, again, I'm more than happy, and I've expressed this to Michael and David and to Roger, and I'm expressing it now, all right? I'm not looking to cease service to the village, all right? I know there's not competitors out there that are comparable, okay? But there are limitations as to what I can do, because from my business standpoint, by reducing it $5 a unit, all right, I am giving up economically, all right, a lot of dollars that this gentleman has proposed, I certainly can do, but that's, given the economics that you have in your contract, you only have 1,000 some odd units, 1,100 units. So, you have a greater proportion of, a smaller proportion of people that can absorb the cost, whereas a city like Livonia that has, 35,000 people, they can absorb those type of costs much easier than a community of your size. So, for me to do a house-by-house audit to see what containers are good and what containers, that's not an expense that is really feasible for my company for priority to absorb, given the size and economics of this contract.
Can't you just view the tapes? You'll have all these videos.
Again, spending the time to do that, sir, it costs us money, and that's just, from my perspective, it's not an effective way of the use of my funds.
Driver can indicate that when he's making the rounds? He'll know.
Again,
If you don't want to do it, that's fine, but I think.
it's just not a feasible economic way to do it, because not everybody is gonna be putting out, you're asking a third party to make determinations, or to spend 8 hours or 10 hours, whatever that day is, to look at every container. We just can't do that. I'm not gonna do that, unfortunately, because it's just the economics of the contract. I can't absorb that cost and justify it, other than I would have to pass that cost over to the village, and I'm not looking to do that.
I think with pricing that you've provided, I think the most important thing that you can do for us is for us to identify how many residences we're talking about. I certainly don't want to get billed for
Sure.
800 more than we
Oh,
actually
absolutely.
have.
Whatever the count is, I can look at the prior GFL bills, we can determine that count. In my defense, the contract was sent as a draft, all right? So I'm looking for whatever, this was not a sign it, or this was a draft saying, okay, this is what I see, all right? That count, was the count that I had, and it's incorrect. That's no problem. We'll correct it. Whatever the house count is, the house count.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, no issues there. That was just a clarification. Nobody was pointing at you for anything.
No, I didn't think so.
but Roger, are you gonna be able to handle this transition to different
I'm
trash
sitting here
cans?
thinking about how we do that.
How are we gonna do it? I don't know. Do we hire somebody to do that,
We're gonna have to send a letter out to every resident
But
that
who's
explains.
gonna send the letter? Who's gonna follow up? Who's gonna send the
It's gonna
bill?
be one
Who's gonna
letter.
collect
It's
it?
gonna explain that we're gonna have to work on that, but it's
Right.
gonna be a letter. We're changing our carrier. This is how it operates. By this day, you need to have these types of containers. If you don't have these types of containers by that day, they're gonna stop picking up your trash. And once that day comes, you'll have two choices. You can go buy them on your own, or you can buy them from them.
Do you folks,
And you gotta have that done by August 30th.
do you have some communications templates or brochures that you've used elsewhere that
Yes.
do you,
That would be helpful.
do you,
Sure.
Absolutely.
do you have a package that we could use to inform our residents?
Yes,
Because we've done that with other contractors. and
absolutely. We can share, and we can help put together that communication piece.
All right, that would be really good, because then we'll know what you know is important
We
for
might even have to send it
residents to know.
twice.
What?
We might have to send it twice.
Yeah, probably.
Like have one
Well,
go
we can
out.
start with an email blast that we do every week, but not everybody.
Question, is that the same information that's on your website that I took off your website and put on the newsletter already?
Oh, is that it?
A lot of it will be similar, yes, but we do try to actually tailor it to the specific community's needs.
Okay.
Yes.
And you can send me that
Oh, absolutely.
But remember, we know that not every villager opens up that e-blast. So we have to do a physical
That villager will be
distribution.
bummed when
They open it up,
September
they don't
1st
read
comes
it.
and
Say-
their
say
trash
it
is
again?
sitting out in front of their house. They'll learn to read the mail.
Okay,
Yeah.
I guess we've
We got a project here.
saturated this
And
discussion.
I don't think that we have a lot of options.
Right, we gotta move forward and, okay. Any more questions, or are we ready to vote?
Yeah.
All in favor of approving this contract, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
As you said, can we get some
Yes, we can finalize it with your city attorney.
typographical types of
Absolutely.
comments to Peter, and Peter full get them to you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I found some typos and a couple clarification questions, but I don't need to spend a lot of time now.
Good.
Okay,
Thank you.
Guys.
Thank you.
okay,
Have a good evening.
Guys.
very good. One more thing here, Pickering Barn, Peter,
We're done trash talking now?
we're done trash talking. We have a resolution regarding the Pickering Barn. And basically, it supports disassembling supporting disassembling the barn and trying to figure out what the next steps are. Does that kind of summarize it?
I think so. It's basically a reinforcement of the support of the council in the efforts to save the Pickering barn.
Okay.
Yep, yep.
Do we have a motion to approve this resolution?
Bill, before you do that, I would like to suggest that in that resolution, the sixth whereas
Yep.
be deleted.
Oh,
Just,
can you, that's
We
an
know-
interesting piece I'd like to understand.
we know
Well,
he's
and
not
we
interested,
can
so
talk
why
about
even
that,
mention
but
it?
The question is whether or not it's relevant to the rest of
Right,
this information here.
And it's not factually correct either.
That's the question.
Right.
right. So just delete the sixth, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Earlier today, we had also talked about deleting the be it further resolved, second from the bottom. Similar reason is that, what is it, David? Relevancy to this resolution. Are you comfortable with that, Roger?
Yes.
So scratch be it further resolved
Yeah,
also?
yeah.
That's something you can decide at any point, whether or not.
They are
you want
public
to spend
funds,
money.
but not ours.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, Pete, we just went ahead, were you done?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
He just wants a yes vote. He doesn't
Why
care.
make it more complicated? We just,
I'm about to.
oh,
Right, no, I think it's just straightforward. We talked about that paragraph in our task force meeting.
Yeah.
Wasn't sure if that had been addressed or not, but essentially, yeah, if there's any questions. Otherwise, I think it's pretty straightforward. It'll help us move forward and move along.
I took some time and talked with our friend John Gry from Oakland County this afternoon after the task force meeting. And he actually made a couple more suggestions that you might want to incorporate, Roger, in a final version of this. We know that Commissioner Gershenson was concerned that the village demonstrate that we have skin in the game. Now, it's not in the form of cash at this point, and it may never be. But what we have done is, and I think this could be a whereas, we have formed a task force of village leaders to manage this with the Main Street Board. We have spent significant staff time, paid staff time, as well as volunteer time for months. I don't think they're gonna need a number, but I think just describing the commitment level of the village as a whole to this so far is a good whereas and does show skin in the game.
That's very good.
Yeah, and,
Pam, can I add something to what you just said
of
right now?
course.
I think part of what I did sit on the task force today, and I think part of what we talked about for the commissioner on there, especially because of some of the funding that's gonna happen through the Oakland County, was with that, we thought it best that the village give some sort, just as Pam said about there, but that the village is committed to the historical preservation of the barn at the
Yes.
end of the day. is what I think she's looking for from the commitment from the task force, the time that we've spent from staff to volunteer, to the village's own, commitment to, that's the goal, is to preserve the barn at the end of the day, to make it more, I don't wanna say palatable, but to make it clearer to her that that's what the money's going to do, is to preserve the barn, whatever form that may take as we continue to explore that out there.
Thank you, that's very good.
So do we want to add something right now, or
I like what you said.
do it and do it next month?
The sooner we get it done, I think this
Let's get
much
it done.
better.
So the,
I'm fine doing
whereas
both.
the Village of
I
Franklin,
didn't have time to write a paragraph,
well, let's
sorry.
write it here. The Village of Franklin is committed to preserving the Pickering barn.
Well, the last sentence is now it is resolved, and if you read the whole thing, it says, and determine the future of the barn in the village and its preservation. I think just adding its preservation perhaps would be enough for that sentence, but I think you should add you said formed a task force of village leaders working with Main Street, and you said significant time has been spent by staff members working on this for over a year, right? I mean, the planning commission has been working on this for over a year, and
You could list out the agencies, Village Council, Task Force, Main Street Board, Planning Commission. And it's collateral, but John felt that that would be a good addition, it was his idea. Because the audience is Commissioner Gershenson and funders. Because this would go into a funding package.
Could you restate Marcia's thought that would be a good idea? Was it that, is the language in the resolution you feel adequate for Marcia's uses?
John agreed with me when I suggested that it needed to use the word support and commitment somewhere instead of consider.
I know we did discuss, saying support
Yeah.
and commit,
I'm sorry, interest to preserve the
finding a
barn.
use
Yeah.
for the Pickering barn.
so instead
that
of
do it?
interest, you put support. So where it says, now it is resolved, the Franklin Village Council hereby expresses its continuing, instead of interest, we put support
Support and commitment
and
too?
commitment in the
Okay.
acquisition and storage of the Pickering barn.
Yeah, that would make me happy.
Well, it's,
Yeah.
Then
it's
if
the
that's
end.
the language, if you're going there, Pam, then the words in the village at the end are coming out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just the future
Yeah.
of the barn, period. I can live with
And
that.
its preservation.
I'm not committing to doing anything for the barn in the village at this stage.
I think we can delete that phrase
Okay.
safely. I don't think it takes away anything.
Mhm.
Because, yeah, thanks. I liked your wording, Kathy.
So let's get your wording down so we understand what it is.
So all I said was, now it is resolved that the Franklin Village Council hereby expresses its continuing, adds support and commitment in the acquisition and storage of the Pickering barn to allow adequate time for planning and fundraising to determine the future of the barn and its preservation.
That's the only change,
And then we were gonna add what Pam said about that we have, the village has shown its commitment.
so that's a new whereas.
Thank you, sir.
Well, that would be a new whereas.
It'd have to be a
not
new whereas,
reservation.
right.
And
Whereas the village has shown significant commitment in the preservation of the barn through its forming of a task force of village leaders working with Main Street, and significant time spent by staff, village council, planning commission, Main Street, working on this.
okay, so
Not exact.
Dana's got the recording, she will,
She'll do it.
okay.
Yeah.
So we have a motion and a second.
I'll second.
Did we have a motion?
I'm good.
All right, I'll make
Okay,
a
we
motion.
have a motion to approve the amended
I'll second it.
Pickering barn. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Will we
Okay.
get to see that before that goes out of the village, please?
We'll send it out to you guys so that you can
Good.
take a
Not
look at
exact.
it.
Yeah,
We'll send it ahead of the minutes.
good.
Okay, we have completed everything on the agenda. Meeting